so apologies if I did cut a couple of things out. Dr. Shan's life is committed to making the world better for animals, people, and the environment, both spiritually, mentally, and physically. He earned his Bachelor of Veterinary Medicine and Surgery from Murdoch University in 1992. He advanced his qualifications in 2003 with a certificate in zoological medicine from the Royal College of Veterinary Surgeons in the UK. Between 2001 and 2004, he was a clinical scholar in conservation medicine at Chester Zoo, before undertaking field work as a volunteer and consultant in Hawaii and Jakarta, Indonesia. 2007, he earned his Master in Philosophy in Veterinary Pathology from Liverpool University in the United Kingdom. Since 2012, Dr. Shan has been learning, practicing, and teaching Hawaiian spirituality from lineage from the, I might mispronounce that one, Halawa Valley in Molokai, is that correct? Beautiful. And then in 2018, he began his home visit veterinary business, which is titled Aloha Vet. This mobile veterinary system has allowed for capable veterinary care to become accessible with flexible availability, while the income stream has allowed him to provide care to wildlife by working together with local government departments and local NGOs. This came to fruition when he assisted in emergencies such as the Borenup bushfire, as well as other climate change incidents, which has obviously inspired his presentation today. Thanks, John.
Thank you, Dean. Thanks, Dean. Thanks, everyone. So yeah, just starting with the acknowledgement of country. And right down the bottom as well, all families. And just to say that we are all family, including the animals, the trees, the sea and the rocks. But the Webb family have been also very supportive down in Wadandi country, down south. So just mention them as well. This is a huge collaboration, and like many of our collaborations, it's come out of a great need, of a sudden need as well. We really saw a whole heap of possums landing on the rescuers' doorsteps, really in the summer of 2021 and 22, and then last summer as well. So just quick mention there of Dr. Felicity Bradshaw, Richard Lucas, the Bustleton Vet Hospital, all the local vet hospitals and clinics as well, Fauna, of course, and all the volunteers. I4 really came and offered us support, and we got our representatives down here, and obviously they're a major sponsor as well. Wires have also been helping out. Lippard, which is a veterinary wholesaler, and of course WA Wildlife, spoke to Dr. Meg quite a bit. And then we've got ongoing research with Dr. Roberta and Ms. Sarah at UWA, and then Catherine Herbert and Lauren Suffling from Sydney have come across, and Kath's going to do a presentation tomorrow as well, so try to see that one. Anyway, moving on, the green bits at the bottom is what I really want to be focusing on, which is the fine-tuning of how we treat these burn paws. But of course, it's good to give you guys all some context as to the species and the other aspects around it as well. So Western Ringtail Possum lives in trees, eats leaves, or is herbivorous, not fully frugivorous. It has switched over to exotic species that people have in the backyard. So obviously we have also a meeting of the wild environment with the urban environment, and basically that's causing few issues, but it is causing what we're looking at here with the burn feet. And I'll come to that a bit more later as well. So we've got a couple of references, one from the Australian government about the species, and also there's a recovery plan that was written in 2017. And it's classified as critically endangered. So there's no more rungs on the ladder. The next step, it's gone. So just so people know. The nutritional quality as well has been flagged as an issue with climate getting hotter. So we may be looking at poorer health rather than actual deaths or injuries. Map on the left from the federal government website, map on the right from DBCA. A bit more detailed and a little less optimistic looking than the map on the left. So the blue dots are the current distributions. There's been some translocations to the yellow dots. And we can see that, we're really getting that reduced remnant vegetation as well. A lot of coastal distribution, you got forest distribution, and then again, coastal distribution around the Albany area in the south there. So what happened was we had 28 days with temperatures higher than 35 degrees C down in the Bustleton, Southwest WA area. And then 53 casualties that were picked up by fauna. So we got one wildlife rescue agency, and that's the one that people found and handed over to them. So obviously it doesn't represent the total number of casualties. Then we have 13 days last summer and 26 casualties. So we're kind of predicting averaging out the numbers based on the temperature days above 35 degrees, 34 degrees. And it's unseasonal. That's what that chart is showing us there as well. What have we got? 1.5 days and 0 days. 1.5 days above 35 degrees, so 1.8 days of 0.6 days. 4.8 days annually is your average above 35 degrees. So this is Susie Strapp, president of Fauna's hand, and her measurements. 59 degrees C on the rooftops and 63 degrees on the roads. And I just wanted to just highlight again that collaboration there amongst all the different people who have worked together. But Susie and Fauna really have been spearheading this response in terms of the organization anyway, and bringing together all these people, including myself. So the animal comes in. May have been sitting on the ground for 3 days, and then someone reports that they see a possum that's just sitting on the grass in their backyard for 3 days, which is probably the worst one. But most times people report them straight away. And so we need to work out, firstly, as a triage, whether or not we have something that's worth putting through a lot of treatment, and whether we can release it. So the table is based on the esteemed Anne Fowler's notes or publications, who was up earlier. And it's made by Richard for really his staff at his hospital to work out whether or not we go ahead with treatment. So you got the green and the yellow and the red, and obviously these are all in your notes as well. So we work out the depth of the burns, the extent, how much of the body or the paws are burnt, and also whereabouts they are. Obviously, certain areas like maybe around the eyes or something critical, you may not have a viable release either. And these burns, obviously, if you ever had a burn yourself, it can worsen. So they may be sick from other issues, especially dehydration, possibly pet bites as well, or feral cats. And then I've put in this bit here because we also have to look at the capacity of us to take these animals through the whole series of treatment. And that's kind of average of 1 to 5. Every 1 to 5 days, we're knocking them out. Then we've got to house them, feed them, look after them. Takes a lot of time, personnel, and finance, the whole exercise, and also do we have access to the required medication. And then afterwards, we also want to know whether we have somewhere suitable to release them back in. So the question is also whether we should put them back where we got them from or somewhere a bit safer. So first aid first. Pain relief is obviously on the forefront, or euthanasia. I've put that little and then after euthanasia because even if we do euthanize the animals that have come into our care, there is still things that we can learn from them, especially if they're as precious as these possums. But at this stage, I haven't come across a plan for after death information gathering. So we need to cool the burn down if it's recent, and then also maybe use a bit of antiseptic on it to deal with the infection risk. Pain we mentioned already. We have to correct the shock and dehydration, similar to what Anne was talking about earlier. Question about antibiotic cover. Again, the question also is who decides. Does anyone want to give us an answer? Who decides? Who decides when you euthanize? Who decides when you use antibiotics? Vets? Okay. The way I work as well is I have a conversation with a carer, and amongst all those other aspects that we touched on the slide before, and because we actually need to work all that out before we also start treating. That's a great answer. There's a list in the abstract. So you'll have the whole list, the whole procedure in there. So I won't go into it in too much detail. The main thing is to get everything ready so that they're only knocked out for the least amount of time. And after a while, we got pretty good at not contaminating the clean flush. I did stuff up a few times, so you just chuck it out, get a new bowl, a new flush. And I brought a few of the treatments that we use, and I placed them up there as well. So I think those chairs will be free till we sit on them at around 2:30 today. So just come and have a look. And I'll just show you what we're doing with the syringes and the creams that turned out to work better. So we're using Manuka honey. I don't think there's much of a difference between using silverzine. A lot of the texts recommend silverzine. I'll try not to get any on the desk here. And so again, being clean, try not to touch the inside of it or the plunger. And then we were just popping that on there and squeezing that in. So then we had like, you didn't have to fill up the 10 mil or the 5 mil tube, and then kind of lift it up like that. And then you had a little applicator. So that kept it a bit cleaner, but this stuff gets really messy if you're not careful. And it'll stick to like, your bum if you brush past all the pre-prepared dressings. And yeah, it's really funny, but it's not because you're racing against the general anesthetic time. Or you drop it all on the floor and it's like the toast and it never lands the right side up. So we use this melalin non-stick dressing, but some of the early ones where they had a lot of skin stuck, dead stuff stuck on the paws, I just put the soft band, which is more like a cotton, synthetic cotton, gauze, not gauze, wool on it, and that would kind of lift off some of the stuff. It probably would want to soak it if we hadn't anesthetized the animal. When we're doing that, it might be sore. We're recording everything, photo records as well. So this is how a setup can look like. It certainly would, I would say, would need at least 2 people. 3 people would be even better. This is Kath here, and we're also doing morphometric measurements. So yeah, all the measurements that Anne was talking about, whether the head's too big for the body and that sort of thing. So you know they've been stunted. So with the general anesthetics, we normally mask them down with isoflurane or oxygen rather than use injectables. It's really safe combination and really responsive. So if they're getting too deep, you turn the dial down and then they start to wake up. And as Michelle was saying earlier, you're supplying pure oxygen as well. So in anesthetized, the oxygen concentrations in your blood aren't dropping to brain damaging levels. And I was going to demo, but I didn't have a actual ringtail possum, so I brought something else. What's this? Who knows? Ringtail lemur? This guy actually came from the Jersey Wildlife Preservation Trust on the island of Jersey back in the day. So the original method was they'd come in a cage. They'd come in a cage, a cat cage carrier, which you can get from Kmart actually quite well. And they'd be maybe in a bag or something. And then the original method was we were kind of taking them out because they use their tails to climb. They're quite strong. Just doing that, and then they'd be peeing everywhere and struggling and that sort of thing. And then we try and get the mask on, and they'd be running up the table and up me and all that sort of stuff. So we tried something else. If they were there in the cage, we'd kind of come in slowly with a towel and just kind of cover them, open the side door, and then stick the mask on them. And they maybe try and back up a little bit. But with that reduced stress as well, you actually reduce your anesthetic risk, especially if the animal's already compromised. So that was working really well. We got gloves as well to put on just in case, which they do bite pretty bad. You can also have a bag, which they like, and you can also cut a corner off, so that if they stick their nose through, or if they were in the bag and we wanted to check something, we could just keep their heads in there. So that kind of just restrain evolution was pretty important. I think Susie only got bitten a couple of times. So if the bandages are on, we take a photo and record our success, because a lot of times they will get the bandages off, as we all might know. And so the question is, how do you get them off as well? So do you want to choose between water, methylated spirit, or Zoff? Zoff is this kind of glue dissolving thing that no one can tell you what's actually in it. And we ended up in the end being really quite happy with micropore. So we got like the 2 sizes. Normally I use the little one, but and obviously don't cut the possum. and water will loosen it quite well. You can see that the back paw on the right there is quite brown, so it's like kind of urine stained as well. And you'd be worried, but we never really saw any serious infection issues. Well, we didn't see any infection issues for the ones that survived. So we were doing a series of photographs as well for Kath's study, and we go in sequence. So we go from the animal will be lying like that. We do that leg first, and then photo. So we go in around, just to get more efficient. And once the photos were taken, we start washing that one. We wash that one start drying, and then bandage, and you get the idea. And we'd also check for any other affected areas, including the tail. The thing about antiseptics as well is they don't need to be very concentrated, but they need to be on for as long a time as you can. So if you use them too concentrated, it can damage your cells. So just bear that in mind. And a lot of the times when we had that kind of red, see like that one there, it's well on its way to healing. Infection's no longer an issue. We're just flushing it with lots of water, so high volume and low pressure. Well, saline actually. Would anyone know why we use saline instead of water? Yeah, sterile saline, yep. Anyone wear contact lenses? So that works really well, and that sort of stuff. If it's the same concentration as our body fluids, so it's less likely to cause disruption or pain when it's got that little bit of salt in it. So I've got the amla cream and the lignocaine gel there. Definitely would be putting them on as well, leaving them on for a few minutes if you can, and then wiping off the excess, putting on the silverzine or the manuka honey. I've spoken already about the melalin versus the soft band, and so now we're going to have a look at how we put it on. So we had a whole variety of bandages coming in from all the different vets, quite interesting. Just brought my other gloves for a demo. So some of them look like that. Actually, it was more like that. So obviously we had very little function, and it would just drive them mad, especially because they are a tree climbing animal and you want to get up. So what we ended up with was I'll use the ringtail lemur again. We ended up with the melalin or the softband pad there, and then I always wonder how many hours we lose in our hospitals when the nurses are trying to get this out, and how much that costs the health system. Anyway, the back feet are more anatomically correct for the possum, because the front feet are actually a 2 and a 3, so we need to actually remember that as well. So the 1 and the 4 on the back feet, I'd hold the pad in place, and then I'll start it maybe over there, and then get the pad on. And I'll wind down the bottom to create a bit of a cuff under there. This tape isn't very stretchy, so two things happen. It doesn't fall off as easily as a stretchy one, but you can also end up constricting the the blood supply if you wind it on too tight. And then you kind of go over in a kind of figure of eight, keeping that pad on. And then we end up leaving the toes exposed as well. And you can wind it up the toes a little bit too if you have wounds on the toes. Obviously, you're trying to cover all the wounds as well, and just cutting your melon to shape. And if there were any that we were unsure, they might have gone on too tightly, especially at the start, we'd just remove it and start again. And the good thing about a melon is, yeah, it just comes off when it gets wet. So if it's still sticky on them, which most of them weren't, they were just being held on by that cuff that we wound on, we would just put some water in it, and that would just loosen it up and get it off. And they do lick almost immediately after. So and then we do other things like weight them. Obviously, you got to weight out the bandages and stuff, but in terms of our workflow, it worked best to wait them when they're starting to wake up in that 5 minutes. And we didn't need them heavily anesthetized for the more painful part of the procedure. We give them the fluids. Again, maybe better do at the start. So it didn't matter that much in weight, but if you wanted to be a stickler, then you could subtract the weight of all those things. We might use antibiotics if there was a real need. We've got someone coming up as well talking about antimicrobial resistance in our wildlife. So really, we want to be quite judicious about when we use it. And the other thing about these possums was it was really hard to re-administer the subsequent doses without causing more stress or another anesthetic. So that all factored in. We're not really sure what doses to use, basically. And there are those aspects of it as well. So again, it is a difficult decision, and it will be good to gather more information and maybe even commission or ask for more research. So how do we know when it's time to stop knocking them out? The one on the third photo, or the one in the middle with the red on the paw, it looks dry, but sometimes when I give it a bit of a scrub, it starts bleeding again. So we just continue bandaging that one. But if we gave it a bit of a scrub and it managed to be okay, we tried without. And that also meant that it didn't have to be knocked out every few days. They then go into these pre-release cages. So Fauna's got what they call the possum finishing school. And they get to climb. They get the artificial dray, which is two kind of strawberry kind of hanging basket planters meshed together with a hole cut out for the door. And that's what they get released in as well. So obviously, ideally, we want to track them, see what happens. And thanks to Kath and her team, that was done for 15 last summer. And we released them at dusk. And so these are preliminary results of what happened. We had 3 that were still alive at 45 days, but the colors are designed to fall off anyway. The yellow arrow shows a little bit of thread, which is known as the weak link. So that falls off. Sometimes they slip it over their heads. So we've got 5. We could say that were predated, and then there were 2 that were probably predated. So there's signs of an attack, I guess, near where we find the collar or we find the body. Actually, no, we don't find a body in those ones, but we find the collar and fur and stuff like that. So the question is, and they've been microchipped. So will we see them back again next summer? Is the question, which will then tell us that we need to review our policy on where to release them, or more specifically DBCA's policy, the local department. So the question again is why do we have to treat them? Well, it's iatrogenic. It's something that we've caused as a species, as humans. So we're kind of bound to treat them. And also, who would be the ones to treat them? I mean, we all have the responsibility. It doesn't really matter whether we're wildlife carers or different departments or vets. But how are we going to do it in terms of the finance as well? We need to work that out. And if we don't do it, what happens? I welcome your comments. I welcome your feedback, suggestions. Come up to me. I'll be here today, but I'll be doing it online tomorrow. But my contacts are there. Anyone, if you guys are visiting, you want to have some local tourist information or whatever, where to eat your dinners and stuff, come and say hi. Thank you.
All right, we do have a few minutes for questions, if you're happy to take a couple now. Would anyone like to ask Dr. Shan any questions? Yep, you can just come up to the mic. And we're just putting out a memo to our Zoom counterparts as well, so I've got my phone, Anna.
Yeah, hi, I've got a few questions. Do you see any brush-tail possums with similar injuries?
Susie can answer that. She's standing up. In short, yes.
That's a really good question. We actually didn't see any with the burns like this. We do see chemical burns and things with the brush-tail possums. The main reason we're seeing these animals is with the burnt paws is the proliferation of solar panels. And also people tend to like that. I'm trying to think of the colour of the black, monument black roofs, colour-bond roofs. So everyone's gone out and got solar panels in a place where we have a large, the only population of Western Ringtail possums in the Swan Coastal Plain, and they love living under them. A brush-tail possum is too big and they look for a hollow, as we know. A ringtail possum actually makes a nest of sticks. So we're actually seeing them nesting underneath them. So there's an opportunity to mitigate rather than to treat these animals, because sadly they were released back to where they came from in urban areas, and most of them were killed by dogs and cats and foxes.
Okay, my next question is when Michelle Oakley was saying that she's using fish skin for burns, I piped up. Do you know anything about that procedure?
No, I was really curious about that.
Yeah,
so
maybe that's some homework.
Yeah, I'll get in touch with her. Yeah, and I'm sure there'll be other very interesting things.
Yes, because we get kangaroos in with burns, and of course they're big animals, and you've got to put them out in a yard with burnt treatment. And fish skin, Dean, we need something.
I think it's the first time two people on stage have been given homework, but that's all right. We'll look into it.
Yeah, we'd be really interested to this fish skin if we can.
Yeah, we'll reach out to them directly.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Do we have any online questions, Anna? Yep. We might just go one online question, Shan, if that's okay.
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, okay. We might go two. We've got a few. Okay. Did you tend to reach for S8 analgesia, or was tramadol and meloxicam generally sufficient?
What was the question?
Did you tend to reach more for your S8 analgesia, or was tramadol or your meloxicam, generally speaking, sufficient?
We did use S8s as well. mainly at the clinics. So yeah, with you would hope that Temgesic or something like that would last for about 8 hours, and then the meloxicam will last maybe a day or two, but no one really knows. So we kind of go with response as well and severity.
Well, I would prefer that one because I don't
We'll
use
do one
it
more. Is there any particular strength of Manuka honey that is available or preferred?
Again, it's hard to say whether one's better than the other, including Manuka versus Silverzine. But we used the one that was commercially available and designed for the purpose, rather than one you would buy as a kind of food. So it's a paw Manuka honey wound treatment.
No problem at all. One more round of applause for Dr. Shan, everybody.
Thank you. And again, I just want to thank Fauna, Susie for the collaboration, and all of the other collaborators. Thank you so much.
Thanks, John. You go for it. No worries.